huge story today, and I wasn't even planning on doing a video today, but when this article came out, I felt like I had to do this video because it's just so important in the scale of privacy, human rights, personal autonomy, and a free and open internet. This article covers a whistleblower who came out to widen and reported on the fact that a private company has access to roughly 90% of the internet's important connection data. Now, this is a private company, and it's selling information to corporations and military as well. This can allow them to do everything from track usage, identify users, and even de-anonymize VPNs, which, to be honest, aren't always that anonymous anyway. So multiple branches of the U.S. military bought access to this powerful internet monitoring tool. Now, it provides access to people's email, browsing history, other information like sensitive internet cookies, and more. It even provides raw PCAP data, which, if you're not familiar, Wireshark is the sniffer I have open, and this is a look at some of that data. And a lot of this can be very important to de-anonymizing users. Now, having this access to the Netflow, which ISPs have been selling at least since 2017, not all ISPs, but enough of them that they have access to roughly 90% of the internet's user activity. It's a huge story, and one I couldn't pass by doing a video on. I felt like I needed to do this one right away, so I'm going to cover some of the important parts. I want to talk a little bit about the implications here. You know, when you think about it, your personal autonomy, a lot of that relies on privacy, and people don't think about the importance of privacy very often. People don't think about the fact that people behave differently when they believe they're being watched. So your freedoms, your liberties, whatever you want to call it, your free speech, all of that is dependent on some level of control over what you believe others are seeing, logging, selling. Things like social media background checks. One of the latest fads for businesses hiring employees is to do what's called a social media background check, which is to basically scour and scrape the web for every piece of data that may be on you in social media platforms. And so that's just one very small aspect. This is much bigger than that. This is about the fact that a private company is selling this information without a warrant. So there's no warrant involved, and that's the reason the whistleblower came out. In fact, they were concerned about the warrantless use of this very important data, which can potentially, and, of course it can, de-anonymize, users even on Tor. So it's a huge thing. If people have access to this data, it is allowing them to basically decloak the internet at a certain level. Now, of course, this isn't going to apply to everyone, and you can get really creative with your anonymity practices if you think about it. And as this channel grows, once it gets larger, I'll provide some more of those creative ideas along the way. I want to do that flashback talking about 2017. So in 2017, the House of Representatives voted to repeal the rules that prevented internet service providers from selling their customers' app data, browsing data, internet data without explicit consent. And it was under the Trump administration, actually. This is not meant to get political, it's just facts are the facts. They said that it would harm the ISPs if they didn't allow them to do this. And that was, in context, what was said about it. But let's get into some of the data that's actually being sold. And the company involved is CYMRU. So it's Team CYMRU that's involved in this. And now what's interesting, and one of the pieces of information going out there, is that the CEO sat on the board of the Tor project. Now, I found that very interesting, and I was, to be honest, a bit disappointed when I heard that, but I understand that relationships and potentially help find some of the threat actors acting against Tor. So I can see how something like that could happen. But I do want to point out that if you look at the latest Tor project board meeting, it looks like that particular member of the board actually resigned. So as you can see right here, in August 2022, there was a resignation. So apparently this CEO of the company involved in this major whistleblower report is no longer on the board of Tor as long as this is completely accurate. That is official torproject.org information. Of course, it does still say that they are sitting on the board, but it's probably just not been updated on that page. Some of the data that is being made available includes your DNS history, including forward and reverse, operating system fingerprinting, IRC, Internet Relay Chat, Nmap scans, paste bin archive data, having that sold into these analytics that are able to do mass surveillance. And essentially, that's what this entire story is. It's about mass surveillance. And this mass surveillance is all encompassing 90% of the internet. It's a huge story. It also scrapes the banners on network devices. So if you have a very unique banner, it leaves its own unique fingerprint, especially if you customize it. It also provides beaconing activity, cookie usage, user agent data. So that's your browser user agent data. That's an example of user agent data. Extracted file information, some of the files that may be uploaded by users. This information is then extracted from that file and analyzed, categorized, and sold. The IMAP POP SMTP send mail transfer protocol PCAP data. PCAP, as I mentioned, is what you get in Wireshark. It's everything. And even as the article points out itself at the very top, one cybersecurity expert says it's everything. There's nothing else to capture except the smell of electricity. Going back to information that is being provided, this includes certificate information, which is essentially the certificate information that is for HTTPS, TLS encryption, and all of that is very unique. For example, when someone runs an Onion site, if they get a HTTPS certificate, an official one, through a cert authority, which can identify that Onion server's location in certain cases where they have registered with it, and the identifying information can then reveal that Onion server based on the certificate itself. And that's one reason a lot of people recommend not even getting a certificate through a certificate authority if you're running an Onion. There's already TLS encryption provided with the end-to-end encryption between Tor clients when you run a Tor hidden service. So it's also available to corporate customers as a paid service. So it is developed by the cybersecurity firm, the team CYMRU, bundling massive amounts of data, making it available to government and corporate customers. When you look at the backbones of the internet, you have these undersea cables literally under the oceans that are lining the ocean floor, and that's what transports the majority of data to their locations overseas. So from one continent to another, a lot of this data travels through the backbone, and a lot of these tier 1 ISPs are apparently selling this data to this company. It talks about 550 different collection points worldwide, including in Europe, Middle East, North, South America, Africa, Asia, and is updated with at least 100 billion new records each day. We're talking petabytes, which is a massive amount of information. As it mentions, this tool, Augury, is visibility into 93% of internet traffic. So the PCAP generally, as I mentioned, refers to a full capture of data. It encompasses very detailed information about all the network activity. There's nothing else to capture except the smell of electricity. You might want to use a proxy. For example, let me show you this. So if you go into settings there, then go to connection in Tor browser, simply run down to advanced settings here, and you can use a proxy to connect to Tor. And so if you enter a proxy here in this box and check off, I use a proxy to connect to the internet, well, then you will connect to Tor through the proxy. And you can also take advantage of bridges. But if you're really concerned, you could always try a proxy if you feel like you'll be more comfortable. But I really think everyone should use Tor. And I think, the more people who run the nodes, it's open source, so you can inspect how it's running. We'll never be able to get past ISPs selling this data, but we can mitigate. And by increasing the size of Tor, I2P networks, LokiNet, things like that, different mix nets, if we can help increase the size of that, it can make the job more difficult of de-anonymizing users. And so take advantage of things like this simple thing, the proxy settings inside Tor browser. Take advantage of proxy chains, which check out my blog at buymeacoffee.com/politictech/posts, and I have a guide there to show you how to connect through multiple proxies. You can add proxies from the Gittia onion and add right into your Tor browser settings or in proxy chains. So check out the blog at buymeacoffee.com/politictech and take advantage of the proxy lists. I also added front-end lists, so I've created all these front-end lists. So if you want to use Google anonymously, you can use it as a Tor hidden service as well. Open that in Tor browser. You'll have 6 different hops, and Tor, even with ISP selling this Netflow data, Tor is a valuable tool. A anonymous proxy is going to provide you an anonymous node which you can add on to the Tor network. So if you have concerns or questions, go ahead and add a proxy. It's not going to make it any faster, but it will increase your anonymity. That's the advice I have for you today. And you can use proxy chains to line up various proxies. You could add 10 proxies, cushioning Tor from entrance to exit if you wanted to. So there's so many options out there. I don't want anyone to get, depressed and feel like there's no hope for privacy just because of this story. And I wanted to provide solutions as well, and that's what I try to do here. I try to provide you solutions as well as I bring up the problem. So if I bring up a problem, I always try to offer a solution. And one of those solutions is using proxies. So you can also add, proxies and use hidden service front ends in combination. So there's various options for you. You can use public Wi-Fi if you're really concerned. There's various choices that can help increase your anonymity. And that's what I have today, guys. Just wanted to report on this extremely important story and also give you a little hope at the end, a little bit of a solution for helping increase your anonymity. Make sure to check out my blog at buymeacoffee.com/politictech. You can also find ways to support this there. So if you like what I'm up to, you like what I'm doing, you can always buy me a coffee if you like. But of course, I appreciate everyone who shares this content. Make sure to like it. I want to thank everyone out there who has supported this before and will in the future. I really appreciate your help with this. And I want to thank all the recent members who have joined. So thank you for that. And I'll be back later with more on how to protect your privacy.